All right, let's dive into what some people are calling an educator's superpower. We're going to unpack a framework that's all about how to perfectly blend what you teach, how you teach it, and the tools you use to create some really amazing learning experiences. So let's start with a really big challenge in education today. It's this shift, right? We're moving away from that old teacher at the front of the room model, the one focused on just memorizing facts, and we're moving toward a new model, one that empowers students to actually solve problems, to work together, and to create things. But making that jump, well, that's a lot easier said than done. So how do you actually do it?
Well, to meet that challenge, there's this powerful framework called TPACK that basically gives you a map. Think of it as a smarter way to bring technology into your classroom, not just as a shiny new toy, but as a real tool to fundamentally improve how students learn.
Now, I know that name sounds pretty academic, but bear with me. TPACK stands for Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge. Really, at its heart, it's just a way to think about how three different kinds of knowledge, your knowledge about tech, about teaching, and about your subject, can all be woven together to create something pretty special.
And listen, this isn't some brand new fad that just appeared out of nowhere. It's an idea that's been evolving for decades. It actually started way back in 1986 with a concept that connected teaching methods to the subject matter. But then, in 2006, two researchers, Mishra and Kohler, gave it this crucial update for our digital world. They added technology to the mix. And that's how the TPACK framework we use today was born.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty and break TPACK down into its three core building blocks. Honestly, every teacher uses these, whether they use these fancy names or not.
It all boils down to three separate areas of expertise. First, you've got content knowledge, or CK. That's simply the what, knowing your subject inside and out. Then there's pedagogical knowledge, PK. That's the how, the art and science of teaching itself. And finally, you have technological knowledge, or TK. Those are the tools you use, anything from a simple pencil to complex software.
But here's the real secret. The power of TPACK isn't in keeping these three things separate. Nope, it's in the overlaps between them. This is where the magic really starts to happen.
So let's see what happens when they start to mix and match. You combine your content knowledge with your pedagogy, and boom, you get PCK. That's knowing the perfect analogy to explain a complex idea like photosynthesis. Then, you combine your technology with that same content and you get TCK, knowing that an interactive simulation is by far the best way to let students see physics in action.
And the last overlap, TPK, is about understanding how tech can literally change your teaching methods. We're not just talking about putting a worksheet online. We're talking about using something like a collaborative digital whiteboard to completely unlock new ways for students to work together on a project.
And then, when you bring it all together, that's when you hit the TPACK sweet spot. This right here is the goal. It's that perfect harmony where you have the right tools and the right teaching methods coming together to teach the right content in the most effective way you possibly can.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But what happens when the rubber meets the road? Let's take a look at a real-world case where TPACK was actually put to the test. Does this framework actually get results in a real classroom?
So our example comes from a study done in 2022 in Thailand. And the challenge? They were teaching 31 high school students about exponents, which, as you might know, can be a really tricky math topic. The solution? They built a lesson plan from the ground up using the TPACK framework. And the results? They were pretty staggering. Just look at this. Before the TPACK-based lessons, the students' average score on the test was just under 13 out of 30. And afterwards, their average score shot all the way up to over 22.
Let me just put that another way for you. That's a 70% increase in their average score. That's a huge, measurable sign that this integrated approach made a massive difference in helping those students actually understand a tough subject.
And it wasn't just about the final test scores either. The researchers also looked at how efficient the whole process was, and they set a target goal of 70% efficiency. As you can see, the TPACK approach didn't just meet that target, it blew right past it for both the teaching process and the learning results. It's not just effective, it's efficient too.
Okay, those results from a math class are definitely impressive. But you might be sitting there thinking, sure, this works for numbers and equations, but what about other subjects?
Oh, not at all.
Research shows that these principles are incredibly versatile, and they're especially powerful for online learning. It doesn't matter if you're teaching through complex problems, hands-on projects, or in-depth case studies. The TPACK framework gives you a solid foundation for success in pretty much any subject you can think of.
So, let's pull all this together. What's the big takeaway here? What is it that makes TPACK a real superpower for educators?
I think this quote from one of the research articles really says it all. The point isn't just to use cool new tech for the sake of it. It's about being strategic. It's about aligning that tech with great content and proven teaching methods so that students get the absolute most out of it.
So at the end of the day, TPACK isn't some rigid checklist you have to follow. It's really a mindset. It's about seeing yourself as a deliberate designer of learning, always asking how the what, the how, and the tools can work together in perfect sync.
And that leaves us with one final and really important question for the future of education. We've seen that this works. So the challenge for all of us now is, how do we empower every single teacher to find and master this TPACK sweet spot so that every student in every classroom can benefit?